Okay, good evening, and I apologize for the technical difficulties here, but we will start. In this week's Parsha, so we learn about the war that the Jews had with the Midyanim, and afterwards we find Moshe got upset, and Elazar, Aaron's son, Aaron had passed away already, which incidentally tomorrow night is his yard site. He informs Moshe about the laws of kashering kalim. In other words, as Moshe got upset and so on, and he forgot the halacha, and Elazar had to tell him the laws of kashering the kalim, and we learn about how you have to kasher various metal utensils and so on. And the question is, what's the deeper reason behind why, on the one hand, the laws of Tumah and Tara, purity and impurity, how to purify something, that we learned from Moshe, but the laws of kashering, that we learned from Elazar. And in short, the key difference between Tumah and Tara, when something is Tameh, there's nothing inherent in the utensil itself that we can see that's different, that changed. It's something on the outside. It's something more spiritual, and you put it into the mikvah, or even let's say if it's tamei mace, if you just spray some drops from the mixed water mixed together with the ashes of the paraduma, that itself is enough to make it pure. In other words, there's nothing inherent in the utensil itself that is changed. On the other hand, when it comes to kashering, when you kasher something, so then the thing itself, you're sort of purging it from something in the inside. There's taste in the actual utensil, and you're purging it. You're taking off the taste, and you have to get it out from the object, from the thing. And that's the key difference between purity and impurity, and purifying something, and kashering. And that's the difference why one had to be through Moshe and one had to be through Elazar. When it comes to purifying something, so that's sort of an external thing. You're affecting the utensil externally. You're making it pure, putting in the mikvah, spraying water on it. And that, incidentally, can also maybe change it from the inside. You change the thing. And that's what Moshe is doing. Moshe was on a great level that he purifies the object and he makes it holy. But and that could also, after you start from the outside, is coming from above, coming from Moshe, you purify everything, you make everything good. Elazar, on the other hand, was the opposite. He's saying in order to make a real change from the inside, that we have to first purge it. That we have to comes from the inside, from the person himself, to actually make a change that the utensil itself changes. Not that there was some big spiritual light, but the person worked on himself. The utensil was worked on until it changed. That specifically comes through kashering, and that has to come through Elazar, not necessarily through Moshe, but through Elazar, who is more of a man of the people. That is the vart for today. Getting into the vart nechsidis. So until now, we had explained in the the many chapters until here, we explained what a tzaddik is and a rasha is. We explained that a tzaddik is he himself. He's the toiv, the good in him, is rules over the bad, over the negative, or by a tzaddik gomer, it's completely got rid of the negative. And a rasha is sort of the opposite, that he's under the subjugation of the bad, although we did say one caveat that the rasha gomer is not completely the flip side of a tzaddik gomer. A complete rasha is not in the flip side of a complete tzaddik, in the sense that the complete rasha still has some good. It can never really eradicate the good. But having explained that, we can now go on and to explain what is a Beinani, which is really the whole point of the Tanya until here. we started off the first chapter of Tanya, started off with the question of what is a Beinoni. Now that we understand that a tzaddik is somebody that is the whole person is in the rulership of the good, and a rasha is someone in the whole rulership is of the bad. So that must mean that the Beinoni is not under the rulership of either the good or the bad. It's split. And although it's split, in other words, it's not just split in what he does, meaning the Beinoni is somebody who we explained already in the first chapter. He's somebody who's never done an Aveira, because he's not in the rulership of the bad. He has the good, which is also ruling. So he's never done an Aveira, never transgressed, both in intellect, in speech, and in action, but he's also somebody who his whole self is not given over to either the good or the bad. Now, if he's not given over to the good or the bad, so he's always in the middle, always fighting, there's always a conflict, he's nevertheless still connected to the good, because there's still times during the day that he's completely given over to the good. And those times of the day he's can connect to God, and he can't subjugate the bad. Those are the times of davening, saying Krishma and davening. When the person says Krishma, he contemplates the unity of God, and that how a person has to love God and the greatness of God, and so on. And he connects to God. So when he is connected to God, he is at that moment he's subjugating. He is at that moment he's subjugating the bad, and he can overcome it. And it's because of that it's because at those moments he rules over the bad and he's connected to the good. Therefore, he has the capacity even afterwards to overcome even not in the times of prayer, to overcome the bad and rule it and not succumb and only do good mitzvahs. And now, the whole Tanya is called Sefer Shel Beinonim, meaning it's the book for Beinonim, because every person can strive and be a Beinoni. We may not always be able to be a tzaddik, but we can be a Beinoni, as the Tanya will explain in the later chapters, which means that every one of us has to recognize that while we're praying, that is a special time that we can especially connect to God and overcome any negativity that we have. That is for the Vart for today. Getting into short halacha. So there's a halacha. It's common, maybe not so much in a shul, but especially when you're maybe not davening in a shul. You can find many times people, you don't have a siddur and you want to use a iPhone or a cell phone, a smartphone, or you want to use a tablet, or maybe you want to use it not for davening necessarily, but you want to use it for learning. Right? It's good. Nowadays you can have many svarim on it. So are you allowed to use it for davening? And B, what can you put it on top of another sefer in middle of learning? We know that you normally can't put one thing on top of another sefer, but can you in this instance put it on top of another sefer while you're learning? So first of all, with regards to middle davening, the general halacha is that you can't hold something during davening that you're afraid that something might happen to it and might fall down, and therefore you're always worried about the object, and therefore you're not going to concentrate in davening. Therefore, if it would obviously depend on the person, if the smartphone is such an object and you're going to be worried about it, so then you would not be able to do that. You're not able to hold it. But if it's not, then you would be able to hold a smartphone, although you should do something that shouldn't distract you, go from one page to the other, and so on. With regards to putting it on another sefer, so normally you would not be able to put on a smartphone on top of another sefer. However, there is a halacha that while you're learning, you can use another sefer there as a prop. And the reason for that is that it's helping you learn. So it's not so much that you have the siddur open or the chumash or whatever it is that you're learning on the smartphone, but it's that you have it, that you're using it to learn. And because you're using it to learn, you are able to use it. There is a leniency that you could use it and put it on another sefer to hold it up. So in short, to go over the first, we said the vart. Why did it have to be Moshe that talks about purity, and Elazar spoke about had to tell us the laws of kashering, because Moshe was telling us from above that it's really an external thing, that you start from externally, you purify the thing, you're not really transforming the thing, but you start from the outside and from coming from above, and you could eventually through that also, b'derech memela, in other words, as an effect of that is that you also change the inside. And Elazar was saying that to essentially change the person from the inside out, that he should become a changed person, that comes through kashering. Kashering is taking out and making a change in the actual utensil, the utensil that something that wasn't kosher and it has non-kosher in it, and you're making it kosher. Then we said about the Tanya, about the Beinoni. We said a Beinoni is not just someone who never did Avera, as is explained in the first chapter of Tanya, but he himself is in conflict, is not under either the tzaddik or the rasha. In other words, just like we said that tzaddik is someone that's fully under the good, and the rasha is someone who's fully under the bad, the Beinoni is someone who's not fully under any of them. He is not under any of them. But he never does an Avera, not in thought, not in speech, and not in action. And the reason why he has this power, and because he does connect to the good, to godliness, and he does have at certain times of the day that he is over the bad, and he subjugates the bad, and because of that, the other times of the day he does not sin. That we explained that a Beinoni is the avodah of every person, and since a Beinoni is the avodah of every person, therefore every person has to realize that during davening they have the power to connect to God and subjugate the bad. Then we said, we finally said that from the halacha, that if a person is using a smartphone or tablet, so if you're using it for davening, you have to make sure that you're not too worried about dropping it or ruining it or something like that. That would ruin your concentration. And as far as putting it on top of a siddur or some other sefer, you can do that, but that only can be while you're actually davening or learning. If you're not in the middle of davening and learning, then you would not be able to do it. So that means, for example, if you made a pause while you were davening and learning, once you pause, take a break, going to the bathroom, whatever it is, you would have to take it off from the sefer. That's it for tonight, and have a good night.